Welcome to MamaFuel, the podcast that fuels every mama's heart, soul, mind, and body, and hopefully sparks a few dreams along the way. I'm Anne Ferguson, Chief Nurturer and Mama Mentor at the Centered Mama Project, and your host for this podcast. I'll be sharing real, raw, and often funny conversations with beautiful mamas from around the world to remind you that you're not alone and that you're doing amazingly on this wild journey of being a gorgeous woman shepherding small humans as they make their way on our beautiful planet. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode of the MamaFuel podcast. I am delighted that you are here and especially delighted with my guest today. Marie Houlden is one of the loveliest women that I have had the good fortune to meet during the course of this journey from dreamer to doer in the commingled existence that we all live as women, as mothers, and as entrepreneurs. I'm so delighted that Marie's here to talk to us about where she gets her mama fuel as a single mama to her two beautiful children, Hannah, who is 11, and Joshua, who is 7. Marie, also in her spare time, is an entrepreneur, a fully qualified kinesiologist, an EFT practitioner, and we'll talk all about what those three little letters mean, a strategic intervention coach, a Reiki master, and a transformational bodywork practitioner. All the things. Marie and I met last year through a shared mentor, and I've been really lucky to personally experience sessions with her. She's kind, she's hugely talented, intelligent, sensitive, and incredibly generous. And I'm reading my notes because I want to make sure I don't miss anything that I've said because it's all so true. Working with Marie is changing my life and my business. And I know without any doubt that there is bound to be at least one, but probably more nuggets in here for you. So let's get started. Welcome, Marie.
Hello. What an intro. That's lovely.
It's all true. It's all true.
Sorry, I was just about to say it's a really good opportunity to receive, to allow that, just to kind of, to feel that and just to receive it.
How is that for you? How does it feel?
Oh, it was lovely. A little uncomfortable. It's like, oh my gosh. But it's lovely. I think we need to be reminded, don't we?
Yeah, we definitely need to be reminded. We have that. As women, we have so strongly the aspect of giving, right? We're so rewarded for giving. We're so valued and recognized for giving. And there is almost a built-in assumption that we will nurture, that we will give, that we will feed, that we will hold. And the receiving part is a muscle that we don't work very much, do we?
Yeah, so true.
So I would love to know, tell us a little bit about your life right now. Tell us where things are for you right now.
So right now, I'm a single mum to my two amazing children, and I'm also an entrepreneur and a healer. So I'm kind of balancing all of those different parts of my life. And then I guess on top of that, I'm trying to, rediscover who I am after separating. What do I love about life? What makes me come alive? And trying to balance all of that with going out there and having fun, experiencing life, but also giving to others and growing my business. So there's a lot of different plates to juggle or spin. So that can be interesting at times.
When you said that you're trying to figure out what you love and what lights you up and the shifts, I had this really strong vision of that you have all of these different pieces. People talk about the life wheel and they look at all different, if anyone's ever done any coaching, that's often something that comes up, is that you look at a wheel of your life and you apportion different parts of it to different aspects of your life. And I can imagine this wheel spinning around, and one of your roles, one of the boxes we could cast you in, I guess, would be that of wife. And all of a sudden, boom, that chunk of the wheel just drops out or shifts, I guess, to ex-wife or formerly partnered, or however you want to put it, or to single. And how does that affect all of the other parts, all of the other things that you're juggling? How does that affect it?
I think it makes it harder because there's you have to, so for me, my children go to school, and you have this amount of hours every single day where you're trying to cram everything. So for me, it's like, well, if I want to honor my body, I need to try and get to the gym. So I have that kind of ticked off my list because it makes me feel good.
Of course.
And then it's like juggling the clients. Oh, what about the shopping and working from home? I am terrible at the washing needs doing. Just put the washing on, or I could just tidy that. It's like, no, leave it alone, Marie. Do it actually when the kids are there, and you can do it when you need to work and you need that kind of quiet time. Just get your head down and get on with it. But I don't always get that right.
Well, that's actually a really beautiful sentence that you've just uttered, because it's one of the reasons that I wanted to create the Centered Mama Project and even create this podcast, which is that particularly today in this era of social media, where we have the capacity to curate so completely what we're putting out into the world, the stories that we're telling, right? It's one thing when we're living in a small village to start telling stories that are maybe true for us, but maybe not true to the outside world. You get called on your stories pretty darn quickly. But when you're creating stories and curating your image and curating what people see of you and of your family, there are no checks and balances. Whether there need to be any is a whole other conversation, but there's no way for anybody to know all of the other stuff that you're choosing to edit out of the picture. And so, you don't always get it right. Well, hallelujah. Nobody ever gets it right.
Keeping it real.
Yeah, despite what we see. That's the thing, right? Despite what we see on social media, despite what people are sharing with Facebook or sharing on Twitter or sharing on, or even just at the school gates, if we just leave the social media piece to one side, is that shifting and evolving of what's going on with you on a day-to-day basis, and how much of that is actually shared and vulnerably not exposed, but I guess in a way exposed to the people that you encounter on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think being honest is really important, because I think otherwise, you're kidding yourself for a start. And then it makes it even harder to be honest. So when then someone says to you, how are you? You've kept up this mask for such a long time. How do you then say, actually, I'm not doing so great today, or I'm really struggling, or this has come up and I can't manage everything? But then how do you ask for help? People are like, what? Why do you need help? Because you're perfect. It's like, no. So it's much better to be vulnerable.
Let's go there. Let's talk about this idea of asking for help. Have you always been able to ask for help? Do you ask for help?
No, I have been awful at asking for help, because there's been this belief that I'm strong and I'm independent. I can lean on my masculine energy because I came from a corporate background. So when I started, having a family, I should be able to do everything. I should be able to, at the time, go to work, start a business, raise the children, and basically do it all by myself. And asking for help is like, well, I shouldn't need to, surely.
Yeah, just sheer force of will that I know that I can do this, and I will bulldoze my way through whatever the things are that are stopping me from doing this thing. Meanwhile, you exist in a human body that has physical and energetic and emotional limits, and your spirit is shouting, please, please. And I know that this is something that you have had in a very real way. This is part of your experience too. Do you want to talk a little bit about your progression, I guess, from that corporate, really leaning on your masculine energy to now when you're you're operating in this much less tangible world where it's all about feeling and experience and inner knowing, and nothing about performance reviews and measurable objectives.
Yeah. Oh, it's lovely. It's even when you say that, it's like, oh, I feel so free. So nice. But yeah, so I used to work for a big financial organization, and I did enjoy my job. I didn't love it. I wasn't passionate about it, but I enjoyed it, and it was nice to be part of a team. But the pressure was so intense, and there was a lot of expectations, and it's not always the best place to be when you want to work part-time because you have a family. Progression is really hard. And I remember my boss at the time saying, you're not going to get a promotion unless you come back to work full time. I know that's not fair and not right, but that's just the reality. And then you just sit there and just go, well, why am I busting my gut? You know, what's the point? And it became more and more stressful. And for me at the time, I was trying to extend my family. I had Hannah and, you know, wanted another child. And I was really struggling to fall pregnant and stay pregnant. So for me, it was like, this is just not good for me. It's not good for my body. And I went and had kinesiology, and it helped with so many things. I mean, literally, I think in January, I had my first session of kinesiology. By February, I was pregnant, and I stayed pregnant. And I've been struggling with this for 2.5 years. And so all that energy work and what kinesiology did for me, and it helped with my digestive system and the adrenal fatigue, the burnout. I mean, I was like a changed woman in a really short space of time.
Wow.
And so I started my training within about 5 or 6 weeks of having my first session, because it felt so amazing to me. I was like, I have to do this for other people. Other people should not have to go through what I went through. That's it. So I started training on the side, knowing that when I went on maternity leave, I was not going back. I knew that. I knew that right from when I fell pregnant. So that was it. My journey began into that kind of healing space and wanting to help others in a very different way to I was helping corporately. You know, I wanted to help their body, their mind, their soul. I just wanted people to be happy, because when you're not feeling well physically or emotionally, life isn't fun. You know, people just like their mood is down. Everything's a slog. And I just wanted to help people step back into who they really were.
So beautiful. I have goosebumps. And having experienced some of your work, it is definitely something that that feels true. And I think it would be really interesting just to take a little parenthesis, if we could, and explain to people, anyone who might be listening, what kinesiology is, because not everyone is familiar with it.
Yeah, so it's a muscle testing response. So you're basically using the body, you're asking the body, what is it you need? Where are you out of balance? So we're bypassing the conscious mind, because we could have a conversation about some symptoms that were going on. And I could assume that, oh yes, well, I've heard these symptoms before, and my education tells me that this means you need X, Y, and Z. Well, every person is different. And I think that's what I love about kinesiology, is you're looking at the person as an individual, and you're looking at them body, mind, soul. Is everything's taken into account, and you're asking that body, what is it you need? And so, you know, you can understand what emotions are affecting them. You can understand the biochemistry in the body. Where is the energy off? It just tells you so much. I mean, it was such an eye-opener for me. And it's so simple. It's like, why do we get so complicated with things, you know, when there's this simple diagnostic tool? And I know it's not for everyone, but the results speak for themselves. People's experience and how they feel speaks for themselves.
And it's a doorway. It's the doorway that you found, isn't it, to take you from a place which is perhaps one of the default places that we turn to when we're trying to establish ourselves as young professionals. The tendency, I would say, I'm grossly generalizing, and I realize that, but the tendency, I would say, is for many of us to look at the corporate world, to look at that kind of quite masculine, quite structured, quite proven, quite rigid kind of area, you know, kind of careers. And so I know for me, I studied English Lit, and I was still in a bit of in a more flexible environment, having studied that because it was a passion. But getting to the end and really feeling strongly but what are you going to do? You're going to have to teach, because that's the only thing you can do with an English degree, which has since been proven very wrong. But you have to teach, and what else could you possibly do? And the default was, well, go into business and communication, go into business and do PR and do media relations and investor communications, because oh my goodness, you know, and this was my father. It was sort of like a grabbing by the lapels at a distance and kind of going, what are you going to do? You know, because he wanted so much for me to kind of be on my way and be safe and be independent and all that kind of stuff. And I find that so many of us, certainly those of us who have met on the entrepreneurial path, or even generally as we trod this journey of motherhood, we tread this journey of motherhood, rather, get my English right, having just said I've got a journey of motherhood, is that we soften, right? We soften when we become mothers. All of those parts of us that may have felt vulnerable and that may have felt therefore weak and therefore dangerous, right? Vulnerable equals weak equals dangerous equals don't show it equals toughen up.
Yeah.
Kill or be killed, eat or be eaten. And those parts of us start to come to the fore just by the very physical nature and transformation of creating a life inside of us and then feeding it, if that's something that works for our bodies and our baby, whether we do it naturally through our milk or we do it through bottle. Like the act of feeding a child and of pacing the halls when they're colicky and, checking their temperature 10,000 bajillion times a night, 200 years, which we may know something about in this house at time of recording. Those things soften you. And I wonder what your experience is of becoming a mother and feeling into that softness, like accessing that part of yourself that wasn't maybe accessible to you before.
I think one of the biggest lessons, because I believe that children are our biggest spiritual teachers. They show us the way, they trigger the hell out of us, but boy, does it teach us something. Yeah. So for me, it was very much a unconditional love, because it's not always easy. And when it's tough, you just think, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted. And you kind of, it's not about having a reward, but you just think, oh, someone help, it's that kind of thing.
A gold star would be nice.
Yes. Someone tell me I'm doing a good job, please.
Anyone thank me, something.
Yeah. But also surrender, because I know, so my little girl, she is an old soul, strong-willed. She knows why she's here. It's like, get on my train or get out the way. And so often it's, you have to surrender and go with the flow. And with all children, you're kind of not in control. I mean, yes, you can have rules and boundaries and et cetera, but when they're ill, you can't control that. No. And so you just have to surrender. And it definitely teaches you to go into that feminine and just go, well, what will be here. And it's going to be okay. I'm going to trust. And there's a process. So that's definitely, and I'm not saying I haven't fought it at times, like trying to control, because, in times of stress, we can default back to an energy that we have been very comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But on the whole, yeah, just learning to surrender.
How did you find your own journey through becoming a mom and then evolving through that? So many moms like you and I'm going to lump us into the same type A, uber achieving, hardworking, driven bucket. So many of us come into motherhood, and if we make the choice or we have the ability, or sometimes not even the choice, to stay home with our kids and to mother, to make that, to have that become our full-time occupation in a way that nothing else has ever been our full-time occupation. I mean, all the time. It's delightful, and also all the time. How did you find that transition? Did you lose yourself a little bit in motherhood?
Oh, good question. So when I had Hannah, and it was just Hannah, and I was still working corporately at the time, I guess I was still clinging on because I was still working corporately for the same organisation with the same people. It was almost like my identity was still there. So yes, I was a mum as well, but I still kind of knew who I was to a degree. But then when I had Joshua, and then I didn't go back to the corporate world, so there's all these people I wasn't seeing every day, my identity with being a certain person and showing up in a certain way, that was kind of gone. It was like a blank sheet of paper. We're starting again. And then I'm on this healing journey for myself, for these skills I'm learning. I'm bringing in the entrepreneurial bits and pieces. It's like everything's thrown up in the air. And so yeah, I've lost my thread now of where I was going with that. But
whether you lost yourself in motherhood was the...
Clearly I did, because I even lost myself in thought there. But yeah, I did, because then it was like I didn't have as much time. There was different people working from home. I felt very alone at times. So yeah, I think I did lose myself. And it wasn't just motherhood. You know, we lose ourselves in our relationships sometimes if we don't get the balance right. So I think that lots of different things played into that.
So how did you start? Because I was scribbling as you were talking, and I was noting identity tied to work, because that's something that we often, well, okay, maybe not everybody, but I certainly do so much reading in the self-help and self-improvement and self-awareness universe. Bookshelves are just heaving with that kind of stuff, because I'm just really curious about how humans work and how we, you know, the things that we do to ourselves and the suffering that we inflict upon ourselves when we don't need to. And a lot of it comes from that controlling. We're so good. We know how things should go. And the universe is going, nope. No, you didn't. You think you're writing the memos. You don't have the capacity to write the memos. But that association of identity with work, it is also something that happens to all the humans, right? Male, female, whatever gender you identify with. And then all of a sudden, what a lot of my clients talk about is that they fall into the chasm of becoming a mother. And so they disappear off them. And this happened with me. I had a lot of friends in London where I was living at the time who didn't have kids, who weren't partnered. And I moved to a different country. And then I just assumed, and this was a learning for me, I just assumed that they weren't interested in hugely pregnant me, hugely postnatally depressed for a long time me, infant-centered me, and then, oops, let's have another one all over again, minus the depression, thankfully. And then all of a sudden, you know, here we are 11 years down the pipe thinking, whoa, you know, it can take you to this point to think, where have I gone? Mm-hmm. And so I'd love to know, I'm happy to report that it didn't take that long for me, but with some people it really does. And I've seen some clients just completely break down in front of me, like literally crumble when they realize that they don't even know how to answer the question, you know, what do you like to do for fun? And they just have this like, oh, I have no idea. You know, what makes you happy? Oh, my kids. Okay, well, other than them, you know, there's nothing. So I would love to know what or how did you find your way back to, or find your way to the you that you were becoming through both the journey of being a mother and all the rest, because it's all intermixed.
Yeah, so true. Well, I think that there's a number of things that I did. So I reflected back on, what did I like to do as a kid? Because often there's so many clues there, you know, things that we either did as a child or that we desired to do. And for whatever reason, we didn't have the opportunity, the time, the money, whatever it might be. So for me, I loved horses. I absolutely loved horses. I was the kid that says, oh, but I'll keep a horse in my room, Mummy.
Oh, me too.
You know, I was that kid. Yeah. And so when I had Hannah, I joined an NCT group, which in the UK, it's basically a group where, you know, you come together before you give birth for support, to learn about, you know, pregnancy and having a baby. And you kind of spend time with each other afterwards to get through everything.
Yeah.
I made some really good friends. And one of those ladies had horses. So we would take our two children up to the yard and we'd ride, and it was brilliant. And at weekends when I was, you know, still with my husband, like Saturday mornings that was my time away at the stables, you know, mucking out. I loved all that. I love all that.
Oh yeah.
The smell and the tack and riding out. So like looking back to what did I like to do as a child? Well, I loved horses still do now. And I don't ride as much, anywhere near as much now, but it's like, well, what do I enjoy doing? I love being outside in nature. So camping by myself when I don't have the children, camping with the kids when I do have the kids. But it's just like, what makes me laugh? What makes me smile? What do I think about a lot? I love being around animals. So, you know, if I just take myself off to the zoo or something.
Sure.
Why not?
Of course. Why not? Or we have the local SPA, and you can go on Wednesdays and Sundays and walk their dogs.
Oh, I'd love that.
You should look into that. Maybe your local Humane Society chapter has that kind of thing, because it's a service that that locally is offered. And really beautifully, we got there one day. I think it's from 2 to 4. We got there or 2 to 5. We got there at 4, and there was a queue of like 30 people in front of us. Wow. Many of which were families, and the dogs would go out, and the dogs that were socialized enough that they could be sent out with people. You couldn't let them off the lead, but the dogs that were socialized enough to go out would then come back and get taken right back out again, because there were only some that could go with the families that had kids, and others that were just not. You couldn't let them go out with little kids because they didn't know what they would do. But it's something to look into.
Yeah, I should do that. I do. I love dogs too. We used to have a dog, but I'm almost ready to get a dog again.
Yeah.
I get nagged all the time about it by the kids, obviously. Oh. Can we have a puppy?
Of course. Well, I think in our family, I was the dog nagger. And then we got the dog, and I am the dog looker after her now, because 3 years on, my kids are like, yeah, we love him. And I'll say, well, I need some help taking care of him, or, we're going to have to send him up to the mountains for, this week because there's loads going on. And I'm not going, no, I don't want to go away. Well, yeah, but you also don't want to walk him when it's chucking it down with rain and freezing cold for 3 days in a row. So it's that balance of, finding the dream and the reality. Definitely. And that is actually another question that I wanted to ask you. How has your life as it is today, how close is it to the dream that you had, or a dream that had evolved? Like, are you consciously, and this is something for everyone who's listening, this is something we've never talked about, so I'm really curious to know this answer. Is it, would you say that your life today is something that you have co-created with the universe, because we know we're not in control as much as we think we are? Or is it still sort of a reactive, circumstances happen, relationships, and
So I think there's probably a bit of both. So I think that I've definitely reached that point where I know that I create my own reality. So I'm really clear about what I want, the lifestyle I want. So in terms of the lifestyle I have with being there for my children, and certainly now that I'm a single mum, I mean, that is a massive tick for me, because I wanted to do a business, I wanted to have a business where I was doing what I love. It wasn't enough to just show up and just earn money. It's like, I had this deep knowing that I was here to do something important for people. I call myself like a healer, but there's different things that I do within that. But it's about teaching people to live in a different way, to remember who they are, these spiritual beings having this human experience. And that, if you look at life differently, suddenly there's ease and flow and, all of this sort of stuff. So I knew that I had to do that as part of my work. I knew I didn't want to work for an organization again and go through all of that kind of nonsense. I wanted to be in control of my own destiny. And if I worked really, really hard into the evenings, at weekends, I wanted to reap the benefits, not somebody else who wouldn't give me a pay rise because I wasn't working full time. Not that I got a bee in my bonnet about that.
Yeah, really? I don't know
why. So for that's a big tick. It's like life, and it just continues to get better. And there were times when I just thought, am I crazy? What am I doing? Why don't I just go and get a proper job and have that stability?
Yeah.
But it wasn't what I wanted. It would never have fitted with the children, not really. Because what do you do about sick days? What do you do about school assemblies and sports days and all the other things that you have to be there for? So now, I've been able to be present at all of those things. If they're sick, it doesn't matter. And so for me, that's a massive tip. And there's more things that I do, want to create, travel more and take the children with me. But they're at an age now where it's easier to take them with me. So I think, life is still evolving and changing. The dream is still happening and blossoming. And I think, when you're there, when you get to the end point, then, well, why are we here? If we've done everything we're meant to do, why are we still here?
I think it keeps evolving, doesn't it? You get to you either get to the places that you were dreaming of and decide this is as amazing as you thought, or somewhere less than amazing, or maybe better, even more amazing. Or you get to the stage and you think, well, actually, I know that was a dream, and you know what? That's not really for me. So I'm gonna shift. I'm gonna pivot. We talk about that a lot in entrepreneurial circles, right? You talk about pivoting and just following a different lead. Like you've picked up a scent, talking about dogs, you pick up a scent and you think, oh, that one's interesting. And if it makes strategic sense, or even if it just makes sense in your knowing, then you
just do it.
Yeah, you just try it. I would love to know, we talked at the beginning of our conversation about how you were particularly crap at asking for help. And I would posit that most of us, particularly those of us swimming in the type A overachieving bucket, struggle with that. So how are you better at that now? And if so, how did you get there?
Yes, I'm definitely better at that. I still have to pick myself up on it, and just remind myself it's okay to ask for help. And actually me asking for help is not, it doesn't mean I failed. It doesn't mean I'm weak. It just means I'm being really truthful to what I need in the moment. It's honoring my wants and needs, my desires. And it's actually saying sometimes it's okay to put me first.
Yes.
So, because, if you're empty, you've got nothing to give. So I've definitely got better. And it's obviously there's going to be people where it's harder to ask for help because of history that's connected with that. But on the whole, much better at saying, help, please. Having a meltdown.
What happens now when you ask for help? What happens inside of you before you get ready to ask for help, while you're asking for help, after you've asked for help? Like, how has it changed your inner experience and also your life?
So it used to be I'd have this internal dialogue of, I'll ask for help. No, it's not okay to ask for help. Yeah, but you should ask for help. Yeah, but then they'll think this. It's almost like I had this back and forth, where now it's almost like I recognize the need. I can feel it coming up. And so rather than waiting till it's like overwhelmed or gone over the line, I just go, right, I need help. I need whatever it might be. And then I go and ask the appropriate person. And it's like, oh, that was really easy. And that took a lot of stress away. And I don't feel so anxious. And I haven't wasted all that time and energy on having that stupid inner dialogue. I mean, what a waste.
It is a waste, but that we can lovingly turn back and say, this is conditioning. I know that this is, because at some stage, the only reason that you're having that inner dialogue is that it's because you heard your mother talk to herself that way, or someone talk to you that way, whether it was a partner, a parent, a friend, a colleague, one of the cool girls at school, whoever it might have been, someone at some point, or just through things you see on TV, that we all learned that asking for help is a sign of weakness and burdening to other people, which is another thing. So I don't want to be a burden. Oh my goodness, she has so much going on. I'll just do whatever. And it doesn't really serve us. And what I really wanted to pick up on in what you just said was the amount of energy and of time and of mental effort that you save yourself by not slipping into that downward spiral of all of the mean crap that gets floated around in your head as fact when it's just story.
It's just story.
And then you end up, even, I guess one thing that would be interesting to know is, when you ask for help and someone says yes, and you're in that place of, I don't deserve it, I'm bothering them, I'm being a burden, they say yes. And I don't know about your experience, but mine has not been one of like, oh, that's great. It's, oh my God, they said yes. What are they thinking? I asked for this. They've got other things going on. Now I owe them. I must buy them flowers. I should invite, maybe I should babysit their kids one night. It's this process of, you work yourself into such a frenzy. And then someone says yes. It's almost worse than if they say no, right?
Yeah. See, that's the receiving thing again though, isn't it?
Yes.
I can't receive it. I'm not allowing myself to receive that support. And whether it's some kind words, or whether it's babysitting your children or doing the school run or whatever it might be, it's like, oh no, I've asked for it, but actually now I've asked for it, I've got regrets that I've asked for it.
Yeah.
And maybe I could have figured it out. And it's the receiving piece.
And I won't do that again because the vulnerability of asking for help and of saying, even if it's it's one thing to ask for help when it's something you cannot do. So I have this meeting and I cannot collect my children. Obviously, one always can. There's always choice, but there are some choices that are easier than others. Versus, I really need to go. I really want to go for a massage. My body is asking for a massage, and the only time available is the time when I can go pick up my kids. I'm going to ask my friend to do me a favor while I go do something nice for myself.
So even as you say that, I'm like, God, could I do that?
You could. You totally could. We had someone with us briefly from about October until a couple weeks ago at time of recording. And she would go and get the kids on Wednesday at noon, which is when they finish school here. So I call it Vortex Wednesday because Wednesday just evaporates. But she would go and collect the kids and she would bring them home. And I would be working right up until the time when they come home. And then I would go downstairs and sort lunch. And then I would disappear and let her handle the taking to dance lesson and the doing and the whatever. And then also the playing. So the playing I struggled a little bit with because I was like, oh, I'm in here working and you're out there playing. I want to be playing. There was that piece. And also there were times when she would come and pick up the kids. And like this week, I'm going to have a haircut on Wednesday. And the dog walker is coming to collect my children. And I'm just going for a haircut. And it's a 2-hour thing. And I have my haircut by a shaman and it's amazing. And I'm paying someone to stay an extra half hour beyond the dog walk so I can get my haircut. And that has been a real journey. And we tend to be, I find, comfortable. If someone says yes, it completely freaks us out at first. If someone says no, it also completely freaks us out because it just reinforces that we're crap and we never should have asked and we were such a burden and they're not going to like us anymore. And all the things that we think people are thinking. We have no idea. And it makes us loath to ask again, but it's a muscle, isn't it? That when you start saying, I am here and I occupy this space. And yes, I'm a mother. And yes, I'm a partner. And yes, I'm a friend. And before all of those things, I am a whole me. And my whole me needs plugging into the charging station with all parts of me. Yeah. The heart, the mind, the body, the soul, the intellect, the curiosity, the creativity, the sensuality, the wisdom, all of that needs to like plug into the sources of nurturing for you. So I have a couple more questions that I would love to ask you. We could go on and on and on, and I can already feel myself getting ready to ask you to come on again. Because it's just been so fun and we could keep talking for hours. But I would love to know, I know that you work with a lot of women and a lot of mothers. And one of the things certainly that came up for me as we were working together was guilt. And guilt, and I don't mind sharing this very openly, it was guilt around if this business is as successful as I envision, then I won't be able to be available to my children all the time. And what if I miss something? And what if something happens and I'm not here to catch it? So it's the superhero over-responsibilizing of oneself as a mama. Because you're not going to be there to catch them all the time anyway. Even if you sit outside the school gates and wait for them to come out, you drop them there and you sit there all day, they're still going to have a life without you. So it's the amazing beauty and freedom that also has the inverse side of that. And so can you talk a little bit about how EFT, most specifically, because that's one of the modalities that I work with you on, how EFT can support us as mothers, can support us as whole beings who happen to be mothers. And that's why we're all, you're listening to this podcast, and Marie, you're talking to me today. Whoever is on the other side of these earbuds is listening and thinking, yeah, well, that's all fine and good, but I couldn't possibly take the time for myself. I couldn't possibly ask. I couldn't possibly go. I couldn't possibly step away. I couldn't possibly have my hair cut. I couldn't possibly, because, well, what other people think? And the guilt. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with moms specifically, or people, humans in general? Because I think this is probably fairly universal. Men, women, even children, because again, we're conditioned, aren't we? So young. But so EFT is emotional freedom technique.
And it's a healing modality that helps us to not only identify what the stories are that we've created, the beliefs that we've held on to, but it helps us to release it so that it doesn't become such a burden. It doesn't get in our way so much. So often, what I would do with a client or for myself, I'd be thinking through this and say, why am I having a problem with asking about? Why do I feel so guilty if I ask for help? And I would journal. I would be thinking it through, and then I'd be using all of that let's call it evidence that I've written in my journal that I've discussed with the client to create a script so that you are processing it at the conscious level, at the subconscious level, to release it and let it go, and then reprogramming your mind so it's okay to ask for help. It's safe to ask for help. You are worthy of help. You're deserving of help and support, and you don't need to have guilt, because guilt is a self-imposed emotion. No one can make you feel guilty. That's something you choose to take on yourself. And so, we've all got different scales of when we allow ourselves to feel guilty. But for some of us, if we feel like we should have done something, I know I should be able to do this all on my own. I shouldn't ask for help. I am a burden. And therefore, we get triggered when we do ask for help. The guilt is high, it's strong. Mm-hmm. The EFT helps to lessen that, to release it, and to help you feel like you're more in control. And it just balances the whole body. It's beautiful from an energetic point of view, just calming the body, calming the mind, and we connect with who we really are without the nonsense, without the stories.
You said that guilt is a self-imposed emotion, and I would say that pretty much no one can make us feel anything. Certain actions can elicit fear in us just from a protective perspective. Like if someone is coming towards us aggressively, their action makes us feel fear. Yes, but on the whole, no one can make you feel anything in particular. And our children, often we have this story of, oh, you made me so angry, or you made me feel, my kids make me feel so unappreciated, or conversely, my kids make me feel like the best mommy in the world, and my kids make me feel so seen, and they make me feel so appreciated. And they must be miraculous, because most of them on any given day are probably not going to win Pulitzer Prizes for appreciation, which is, it is what it is. But there is this even languaging, and, being an English lit grad, the languaging around making me feel something is like, right now I'm having feelings of this. Okay, and what you do with the EFT is getting to the root of what those stories are that we all carry, right? Anyone, if you're listening in your earbuds, I want you to know we all carry these stories. Every one of us. I don't care how glossy we look on the outside. I don't care how perfect our makeup is, how clean our children are, how everyone's smiling in the family photo. No one ever goes around without these stories unless they've done a shed load of personal work. Yeah. And this is why I value the work that you do so much, Marie. And this isn't, the intention isn't a sort of pitch for what you're doing, but the EFT emotional freedom technique was something that I have fought tooth and nail. If you go online and you type in EFT, you will see everyone and their uncle putting up a YouTube video on tapping. Maybe not everyone and their uncle, but there are some, the big names. I would rather pull my own fingernails off than tap with some of these people, because they just don't resonate with me. Whereas talking to you has been something that's like, oh yeah, I connect with you at a heart level. I like you. I'm lucky to know you. So it's different. It feels safe. And it really is, if anyone who's listening wants to check out EFT, then check out a whole bunch of people and you'll see all kinds of scripts. And maybe, Marie, do you just want to explain mechanically how it works? Because we talk about tapping and we talk about scripts, and someone listening on the other end might be thinking,
well, what is that? Yeah. So the tapping is literally using energy points in the body. So if you went to go and have acupuncture, they would stick needles in you. And if you went to have acupressure, they would just tap on those needle points. And all we're just tapping on certain energy points, and it's stimulating healing, stimulating the release, and it's stimulating balancing and aligning of the body. So we're just tapping on key energy points. Every EFT practitioner is different, as you were saying. We all tap on different points. And the particular person that I learned from was one of only 29 EFT masters in the world. It came from the guy who actually created EFT in the first instance. And he encapsulates all the meridian points. And I love that because that connects with my kinesiology trainings. So we're talking about balancing and aligning all of the meridian points in the body. So we're talking about that really emotional release and real physical balance. We want everything. We don't just want to balance the emotions. We want the symptoms that can manifest from how we sometimes think to ease as well. So it's this beautiful holistic approach, which is why, that's why I like it so much. But yeah, check out YouTube, check out lots of different people, because the most important thing, as you were saying, is you need to feel safe with the person. You need to feel like there's a connection. And the script is literally the words they're using, the journey they take you on. And again, everyone's got their own process to do this. I've created a process that I believe works for me and for my clients. And it's really powerful. So, you just have to check out lots of different people and see who you connect with. There's no right person, no right process. Just go with the gut.
And I think the really key thing here is that it is really valuable to explore and to be curious, because even if you don't know what's going on, if you have a feeling inside of you as a woman who happens to be a mama, who perhaps maybe you've lost yourself and maybe you're feeling like you don't even know what you like. And even if you had some time, you'd be so freaking tired that if you had any time, you would just lie down on the ground, possibly in the road, just because the first need that you have is so elemental. It is to sleep and to just heal at a cellular level, because you're just not actually getting enough sleep. And then all of the other sort of more nice to have things can kick in, where you're finding other things that I would argue are also very essential to your survival and your thriving, because we don't want to just survive. We want to thrive.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
And in order to thrive, we need to be fueling ourselves. So this brings us full circle to what I was talking about around the title of this podcast, MamaFuel. I would love to know, Marie, what do you do? What practices do you have? And I imagine we've already heard some of them, but to fuel your heart, your mind, your body, your soul, what do you use what's your MamaFuel?
So there's a few things that work for me. So EFT, obviously, because it helps me to stay almost one step ahead of my emotions in terms of just understanding them. I'm a really curious person. I'm fascinated by people. Why do they do the things they do and they say? And I want to understand it. So I want to understand myself. And why am I triggered? Why am I saying that, doing that? What's the intention behind it? So I use EFT to help me with that. Journaling. I love books. Absolutely love books. I've always got about 3 or 4 books on the go. And so they can be a combination of spiritual books. They can be books on money mindset and creating wealth, living an abundant life. Every now and again, I'll read a fiction book just because I just think, right, I'm so full of information. Nothing else is going in. I need trash.
Same.
Simple as that.
A trash. Yep.
Yeah, it has to be trash.
Beach reading.
Yes, absolutely. Chick flicks.
Oh yeah,
that kind of, but in a book form. So yes, energy work. I love being the client and going to, as a couple of ladies I go to locally, and we do energy swaps. And I love that. I love just lying there and going, okay, zap me. it's just lovely. But going to the gym is really important for me.
Yeah.
Because, well, we have to nurture and look after our physical body, but I feel better when I'm working out, when my body feels healthy and strong. So that's really important. Eating good food. I'm very much the 80-20. There's certain foods that I know I should eat more of, but I'm not going to deprive myself, because, there's joy in eating foods. So, I'm a kind of 80-20 girl. I do like coffee. I do like a glass of wine every now and again.
Yep.
Being in nature, especially trees. So
You're a forest wandering sister.
Yeah, camping. I love it. I love sleeping on the ground.
Yeah.
Just love it. It's getting harder now. I'm getting older because I too tend to wake up and I'm like, oh, my back hurts. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting old.
It's funny. I love the idea of it, but the reality is I really like my bed. I just really like beds and being off. Conversely, I like being off the ground. Not a big fan of bugs. Love my bed and a nice comfy pillow. And I will go and spend from dawn to dusk and even later, dawn until bedtime in nature and in the forest. Yeah, I can eat that. Yeah. It fuels my mama's spine. It's what fuels my ability to walk from forever. Oh, is there anything that you wish someone had said to you when you started on this journey back to yourself that you maybe want to share with someone who we have the privilege to be talking to right now?
Do you know, the thing that keeps coming up is believing in yourself. And I guess that's a big part of the work that I do because it's been my own journey. You know, we teach best what we need to learn and embrace. And I think it's believing in who you are, what's possible for your life. You know, not doubting who you are, and just making it happen. You know, make whatever you need to nurture you, to honor you. Don't be afraid to ask for it. Make it happen because nobody else is going to do it for you. If you're waiting for someone to come along and go, don't worry, I'll fix it all for you. Or even if it's like your partner, your husband, whatever, to notice what you need. Some people are very observant, but generally everyone's caught up in their own stuff. Yeah. You know, so it's just ask. Just ask. It's okay. You're worthy. You're deserving. You just have to believe in yourself.
Yeah. And be okay with hearing yes and with hearing no.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't say anything about your inherent value as a being.
No.
It's just people speaking their truth. And sometimes their truth is yes, but that comes knotted up with a whole bunch of other stuff we don't want. And sometimes their truth is no. And sometimes that's the easier one to hear, right?
Because we're used to it. It's familiar. It's comfortable.
We're used to it. But also if someone says no, it depends where it comes from, right? If someone says no from a place of, yeah, that's not going to work for me, or I'd love to help you, but today I'm not able to, or whatever. It's not emotional. It's just, this is my truth versus getting upset with someone or worse, saying yes, but you can feel they don't really mean it. And so then you get into the whole spiral, and yeah, asking for help is super powerful. So speaking of asking for help, where can mamas find you online?
Well, the best place is to go to my website, nice and simple. It's mariehoulden.com. And there's lots of different freebies on there. So if people want to dabble, to check things out, you know, by all means, have a little look, see what's there. Yeah. And I have a Facebook group too. So if people want to come and ask any questions, I'm always happy to help. This is fun for me. I'm the kind of person that struggles to shut off in the evening and at weekends, because actually what I do is I love it so much that it's fun too.
You can feel that. You can feel that when you're as a client in your environment. And for anyone who's looking for you, it's MarieHoulden. So yeah, it's very.
It's got a sneaky U in the Houlden.
That's right. It's the Canadian U, right? Although Hull doesn't have a U in it, but you know, Canadians might stick the U in there anyway because we just know.
You know,
U is belong in there. Marie, it has been such a delight speaking to you. I could speak to you for hours and hours on end, and I see a weekend wandering in the woods in our future, having cups of tea.
Campfire.
Oh, yes. And of course, being Canadian, the campfire would have to include s'mores. You know what s'mores are?
Yeah, is that marshmallows and the biscuits? And
marshmallows and the graham cracker biscuits and the dark chocolate. Just is a must. It's a must.
Sounds
Look forward to that. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
That's it for this episode of MamaFuel, the podcast. Thanks for listening. There's a lot more conversation, sharing, and real mama talk happening in our private Facebook group. To join in, go to www.thecenteredmamaproject.com/Facebook and be sure to say hello when you get there. can't wait to see you. If you like this episode, or if you know a mama who could use a little MamaFuel, I'd love you to share this episode and to rate and leave a review. Every comment helps, and it's always a delight to hear from you. Thanks, and bye for now.